Aaron Rodgers finally speaks. Not many updates, and we have the NFL draft in under a week. We'll talk about some of the position groups that we will be talking about a lot here next week. NFL Spotlight starts now. Welcome in. It is the Friday, April 18th edition of the NFL Spotlight Show. I am your host, Ari Meirov, wrapping up the week. Next week when we are back, it is officially draft week, and we're going to talk a little bit more about the draft here today, about some of these position groups and which positions are deep, which positions are not as deep, and really the ramifications and the ripple effects that it has, because we've had a couple of GMs even talk throughout the course of this week, and we've heard from them, and they kind of give us an idea of the way they think when it comes to the draft. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about a veteran quarterback who we've been waiting on forever. Let me bring in my good friend Ben Allen. Ben, what is going on? Great to see you here as we wrap up the week.
Yeah, Ari. Yeah, like you said, we're less than a week away. It's going to be an exciting draft. We know a little bit of what's going to happen at the very top. We assume Cam Ward's going to go 1. After that, might be a free-for-all. But a lot of what goes on during the draft is, like with the picks that are made, is based on how strong or weak the group is. So when you see a run on guys, it might be teams trying to get ahead because they know that guy might not be there later. But when you have a stronger group, sometimes those guys will fall a little bit further down. So what I wanted to do today was go through the position groups and have you basically rank which are the top strongest groups and which are the bottom weakest groups. We're not going to go through, obviously, every single position. I don't think we're going to go through your punter list unless you really want to. But I do think that it's important to talk about these groups. And can you explain a little bit of how you decided to make your rankings with breadth of how big and strong the group is, or how narrow it is with top end talent and that kind of stuff? I know you've got 4 teams or 4 groups for the strongest group. So let's go ahead and have you explain that and then kick it off with number 4.
Yeah, so let me preface this a little bit first, because you mentioned the word runs, and really the way the NFL draft sometimes work is when a team starts and takes a position of a player, then all of a sudden you see a run happen. I mean, it happened last year. It's really a great example. In the second round of last year's draft, we had this crazy run of defensive tackles where the Falcons at 35 took Rook Ororo, and then at 36, the Commanders took Johnny Newton, and then at 38, the Titans took Tavondre Sweat, 39, Braden Fisk. There was just this crazy run of defensive tackles. And after that, we had this crazy run of cornerbacks. So whenever you have a deep position group in a draft, all it takes is one team to start it, and all of a sudden a bunch of teams are like, oh man, we got to get our guy before all these guys are off the board. One thing that happened this week was Raiders GM John Spytek. He spoke, and I think he gave some good insight into how teams think when it comes to the draft, especially when there is one position that is far deeper than others. We're going to play the video here quickly just to give people an idea of what I mean.
I think back to our first draft in Cleveland when I was there in 2010. It was a draft where we had conversations back and forth on Eric Berry and Joe Hayden and who the right pick was at that point, if they both were available. It turns out at 7, there was only one available. It was Joe Hayden, as Eric went 5th that year. But we had a safety in the second round that we really liked, that we really felt good about. So I think ultimately, while it was really close between Eric and Joe, we felt like the drop-off from corner at Joe in 1 to what we would get in the second round was a lot greater than the drop-off from Eric to a player named TJ Ward. And that's ultimately probably what we would have ended up doing had we had to make the decision. We did not, because Eric got drafted by the Chiefs that year, and Joe was there waiting for us. But that's kind of a real-life example of what's the right order to do this in.
So that's a great example. Back then, safeties were obviously far deeper than cornerbacks. So when he was with the Browns, they were like, you know what, we will rather take the cornerback now. We'll get the safety later. So in this draft, you mentioned that I have 4 position groups that for me are pretty much deep, and it's really high-end talent at the top. You can find good guys in the middle of the draft as well. We're going to go from 4 to 1 of year. So number 4 from the positions for me is tight ends. And really, if you go back to last year in the draft, we had one of the greatest rookie tight ends in NFL history with Brock Bowers in the first round. After that, we had no tight ends go until the 50s in the second round. That is going to be different this year because we have 2 first round caliber tight ends, one that is a true blue chip guy in Tyler Warren out of Penn State. You have Colston Loveland out of Michigan, who many teams like as well. I expect him to likely go in the first round. I would expect him to go somewhere in the first 20 to 25 picks in this draft. But after that, we mentioned his name last week, Mason Taylor, the son of the Hall of Fame pass rusher Jason Taylor. I think he's a high second-round pick. If both the first-round tight ends go really, really early, I could see him maybe going in the back end of the first round. But after that, you really have some really good guys out there who, it depends what flavor you want. Do you want one who's an inline tight end? Do you want one who's more of a blocker, one who you could, move him to the slot as well? Elijah Arroyo, Terrence Ferguson, Gunnar Helm from Texas. These are all guys out there who could go in that second round and third round, day 2 of the NFL draft. And as you go down, there are many guys who are 4th and 5th round and 6th round guys as well in this draft. Previously, tight ends has not been really a deep position in the draft. That is different this year. You could really find guys out there in the draft who are either day 1 guys who could be your tight end 2, guys who could be your third down tight ends. Many different flavors of here in this draft, throughout the draft at the tight end position when it comes to this year's draft. After the tight ends, we're going to go over to the defensive tackles. And for me, the entire defensive line in this draft is very deep. We'll get to the edge rushers here in a second. What a tongue twister there. Wow. But yeah, defensive tackles, it is a very, very deep group once again. And I think we could have as many as 15 interior defensive line going here in the first 3 rounds of the draft. We mentioned all the big names. Mason Graham could be a top 5, top 7 pick here in this draft. Derek Harmon out of Oregon. Kenneth Grant, Mason Graham's teammate out of Michigan. If he's there at 22 for Jim Harbaugh and the Chargers, it makes a lot of sense. Walter Nolan out of Ole Miss, I think he is somebody who also could go in the first round. Then the other guys here, Tyleik Williams out of Ohio State, I would say is the best run defender in this draft. He's somebody who should go early in day 2. Shamar Turner out of Texas A&M, Darius Alexander out of Toledo, Alfred Collins out of Texas. These are all guys who are second-round picks as well, and there are a bunch of other guys as well who I think could go in the bottom of the second round, and many more guys who could go in the third round and eventually in day 3 as well. This is a very, very deep defensive line class, and the defensive tackle class in particular. We're going to be hearing a lot of those guys here in this draft. Whichever one you want, a 3 technique, a run stuffer, guys who you can move to the edge as well. There are a bunch of different guys in this draft who are available, different sizes, different weights, whatever it is. There are a lot of guys in this draft that many teams like. We're going to be hearing a lot of defensive tackles here often throughout the draft. The one position we've heard a lot about throughout all of it, it's flashy, it's your fantasy teams. Number 2 for me, it is the running backs. And this running back draft class, we've heard all the big names already with obviously Ashton Jeanty, Omarion Hampton, the 2 Ohio State running backs with Trayvon Henderson and Quinshon Jenkins, Caleb Johnson out of Iowa, Dylan Sampson out of Tennessee, go all the way down to a guy like DJ Giddens, who was on the show last week from Kansas State, Jaden Blue from Texas, Cam Skadaboo, everyone loves after that playoff run. This is a very, very deep running back class, and it makes the entire decision-making here when it comes to when are we taking running backs very interesting. I think Ashton Jeanty is one, and there's a big gap after him, I would say. So I think he goes high in this draft. But after that, where do the other guys start going? Will another team take one in the first round? Will Hampton go in the first round? Is there any chance Henderson goes in the first round? That's going to be one where as soon as one team takes the next guy, we could see a run of running backs. And I had one person tell me this running back class is very similar to the 2017 running back class, which I had to go back to check what he meant by that. I went to check, and holy cow, was that running back class deep. That was Leonard Fournette at number 4. That was Christian McCaffrey at number 8. Dalvin Cook was picked in the second round. Joe Mixon in the second round. Alvin Kamara was in the third round. Kareem Hunt was in the third round. We had James Conner, Tariq Cohen, Marlon Mack, Aaron Jones, Chris Carson, undrafted players like an Austin Eckler, Matt Breida. Remember Corey Clement from the Eagles' first Super Bowl. That was a very, very deep running back class of other running backs who were taken who did not pan out in the NFL. But the point is, that was a very deep running back class. This running back class is just as similar. Then lastly, we have the edge rushers. And I could see as many as 20 edge guys going in the first 3 rounds alone. So I mentioned 15 interior guys, 15 edge guys. That means about 35 guys from the defensive line who could go in this draft. From what I've heard from team, this is far and away the most deepest position in this draft. Abdul Carter, everyone knows, the top pass rusher in this draft. There's the injury concerns with his shoulder, with his foot, but he's going to go somewhere most likely in those top 4 picks. But after that, I mean, you have guys like Jalen Walker, Shamar Stewart, Mike Green. If you're okay with the off the field stuff that he's had a prior history with, he should go in the first round. Michael Williams, the other Georgia pass rusher, really, really good player. James Pierce, there's a character concern there. I know some teams are just not taking him, but he is somebody who will likely go, I would imagine, in the second round, maybe has a shot in the first round, but that's only if a team is truly okay with him. But go down the list. There are so many guys on this edge group who are first round talents, second round talents, and a bunch of guys who should be going in the first 2 days of the draft. I would expect at least 6 or 7 guys in the first round and up to 20 guys in the first 3 rounds. And there are many guys available as well in that third day of the draft as well. So how these teams navigate all of this, we always hear about premium positions versus non-premium positions. Of course, edge rusher is premium. Running backs is not premium. So I could see the edge rushers flying off the board first. The running backs might take some more time, but as soon as the running backs start going, we're going to have a run of running backs happening. So that element of this draft is very fun. It's very interesting. And just keep in mind what John Spytek said in that video, the Raiders GM. Some of these teams might go after a position that is not as deep early just to get that other position that is deep later in the draft because there are so many.
You were talking about a lot of these guys coming off the board early and often and just flying through 20 edge in the first 3 rounds. I have a little bit of a sneak peek of what's coming with your 3 weakest groups. And as I'm looking at the groups ahead, there's a real chance that in the first round, there's a grand total of 3, maybe 4 of these guys that actually go, looking at these 3 positions. Can you go ahead and start us off with the 3rd weakest group?
Yeah, we're going to start with safety. Speaking of just a non-premium position, I wonder if a team is going to take one of these top end safeties early, because after those guys, we might not hear another safety until maybe in the 3rd round. The top 2 safeties, depending who you ask, Malachi Starks out of Georgia, then the South Carolina safety, Nick Emanwari. I'm really bad at pronunciations, so apologies for that. But those are your top 2 safeties in this draft. After that, Xavier Watts maybe goes in the 2nd round, possibly. But after that, the next safeties you guys hear is going to be down there in the 3rd round, potentially. And then day 3, you'll see some guys go off the board. But this safety group is not as deep. It's not a premium position for NFL teams in general. So I'm curious to see if any teams like, you know what, there's only 2 really top end safeties in this draft. We'll take one here in the end of the 1st round or early in the 2nd round just to get this guy, because later in the draft, we're not getting one of these guys. So safeties, not a deep position in this year's class. After the safeties, my second, I hate using the word weakest, but it's not the deepest when it comes to the top part of the draft. For me, we are going to go to the linebackers. And I think there is 1, maybe 2 first-round linebackers in this draft. That is Jahad Campbell out of Alabama. I think he does go in the 1st round. He is hands down the best linebacker. We mentioned a sneaky first-round name yesterday with Carson Schlesinger out of UCLA. I think he goes in the 1st round, early 2nd round. After that, we are not hearing a linebacker likely until 3rd round, middle of the 3rd round, maybe the compensatory pick part of the 3rd round, and then day 3 of the NFL draft, you'll hear some more linebackers. But this is not a very deep linebacker class when it comes to the top of the draft. I think we'll hear a lot of linebackers in day 3 in that 4th round, maybe the bottom of the 3rd round. But if you're looking for an inside linebacker, this is not necessarily the deepest draft when it comes to that, at least when it comes to the top end talent in this draft. It will be interesting to see where Jahad Campbell goes in this draft. The best linebacker, does he go in the middle of the 1st round because he is just hands down the best one? There's Carson Schlesinger, who I mentioned yesterday. Does he get picked in the 1st round just because teams are like, you know what, if we need a linebacker, this is our best chance to get it because we're not getting another one in the bottom of the 2nd round or something like that. So we will see when it comes to those 2 guys. But After those guys, it's very much up in the air at that position when it comes to early in this draft. And then I would say the weakest position in this draft, it's one that the NFL and the networks are probably not happy about, but it's the quarterbacks. I mean, this is not like last year with Caleb Williams and Jaden Daniels and Drake May and Michael Penix and JJ McCarthy and Bo Nix. It's not 2020 when we had Joe Burrow and Tua and Justin Herbert and Jordan Love and Jalen Hurts. It's not even 2018 when we had Baker Mayfield, Sam Darnold, Josh Allen, Josh Rosen, who was highly touted at the time, and Lamar Jackson. That was all off memory, by the way. This is not it. This is really just Cam Ward, and then maybe we get another one in the first round of Shador Sanders. Does a team trade back in maybe for a Jackson Dart or Jalen Milrow? Does that happen? But this quarterback class, like I told Mike Renner earlier this week on the show, and we had him on Tuesday, teams like the quarterbacks, they don't love them. Last year, teams loved the quarterbacks. This year, these are developmental guys. Some of these guys are more backup guys. You really don't know what you're getting when it comes to these guys. So it's not really an exciting group. If you wanted a quarterback, last year was your time to get it. And listen, we're going to have quarterbacks. We're going to be talking about them. Not Fox, NFL Network, ESPN, this show, all the NFL draft places are going to be talking about quarterbacks nonstop. That is not the most impressive position in this year's draft class. So where they end up going will be fun. But like I've said a couple of times, I've compared this year's quarterback class to that 2021 class, which was the Kenny Pickett, Desmond Ridder, Malik Willis, Sam Howell, Matt Corral year, where we talked about quarterbacks nonstop leading up to the draft. Malik Willis and Matt Corral were in the draft room and had to wait till the third round. It's just the way it is. We talk about them a lot, but the way teams view these quarterbacks versus the way the public views them, it seems to be a little bit different. I don't think it's really that deep this year. Teams who are not in the quarterback market, who are now looking for quarterbacks, were like, this is not the year you want to pick a quarterback. So that's the way I look at it. Quarterbacks, linebackers, safeties, more on the weaker side this year in 2025.
All right. And of course, you're going to have your mock draft coming out next week, which is going to be very exciting. You've had a very good run at making sure that you got some of these picks right. So we're going to be very excited about that. I want to put you on the spot here. We're talking about quarterbacks being a weak group. How many do you think go round one?
Well, my mock does come out next week. I'm still putting it together, Ben. So this really is on the spot. Right now, I'll be upfront. I have 2 quarterbacks going in the first round. I'm debating putting that third one. And like I told you earlier this week, Ben, for me, obviously, I want to get my mock to have as many players to the right team. I also want to make sure my mock has as many first round guys going in the first round. So last year, it was 26 of 32. I remember there was a previous year when I was over at PFF where it was 27 or 28 out of 32. My goal is to get as high as possible. So I'm still debating if I should put that third quarterback in this draft. Who is that third quarterback? But we're going to have that full mock here next week. But right now, if you're asking me right now, I have Cam Ward obviously going number 1, and I have Shador Sanders. I will not reveal the team as of right now. We'll do that next week. I have him in the first round as well. So that's where I sit right now.
Well, and the best way to know when that mock draft is up is by subscribing to the YouTube, the Apple, and the Spotify, because we know there's going to be a lot of factors that are going into where those guys fall in the draft. And part of it has to do with the quarterback we have to talk about now, because he still has not decided whether he's playing football or not. And that's Aaron Rodgers. He went on the Pat McAfee show on Thursday where a lot of people were hopeful. Hey, I'm going to play next year. Hey, I'm not going to play next year. But ultimately, he gave us jack on that. There's nothing. We don't know what's going on with him. He said, I'm still trying to figure it out. But what he did do was reflect on the past. And he talked about his meeting he had with Aaron Glenn and Darren Muji. And, well, really wasn't much of a meeting. He said he went out there, he met with them, he flew all the way across the country, and he only talked to him for a few minutes because he said when he went into the meeting with Glenn, Glenn ran out of the room, grabbed Muji. They asked him if he wanted to play. He said he's considering it. They said they're moving in another direction. And, yeah, that's about the meeting. Do you believe that's actually how it went down?
All right, a few things. I do believe that is how it went down because I do remember, first of all, that story when it was officially announced that they were moving on happened on Super Bowl Sunday. And I just checked in to see how did that meeting go. It was brief. It happened. They moved on. So it does sound factual a little bit. Maybe there was some salt and pepper added potentially. I'm not sure. But for people who don't know, like, I'm not here to say who's right, who's wrong. Aaron Glenn is a no nonsense guy. To some people, especially to people who have no prior relationship to him, they find it to be a little arrogant, but that's who he is. That's how he rolls. And his players, for what it's worth, look at Detroit. They all love it. I do have some takeaways about everything he said on McAfee, though. And I do want to get to all of it because the biggest takeaway, obviously, was that there's still no decision. And I'll be honest with you, Ben, when it was announced that he's going to be on the show, I was positive this was going to be the decision day. Like, finally, it's happening. He's been so quiet. This is the day. So, obviously, very disappointing. Nothing happened. But the reason, according to Rodgers, that nothing is happening right now is because there is a personal situation right now, a personal matter in his life or someone close to him. We all have to respect that. I get it. It makes sense. We wish him all the best and everyone that's close to him. I did find it, however, a little weird that we had to do this on Thursday because he came on as if he had some things to clear up on what's being reported and what's being said about him. And Ben, I feel like I cover the NFL like really, really closely. We do this show every single day during the week. If we're being honest, nobody has been talking about Rodgers much over the last couple of weeks. Like, it's mostly been draft centric. It feels like a lot of people had Rodgers fatigue because free agency was March 10th. He was informed of his release on Super Bowl Sunday. Like, this is already April 17th. Like, nobody was really talking about Rodgers anymore. Everyone knew this was Steelers or retirement. So he really didn't give us much more information over here. And for weeks, everyone wondered when it's going to happen, and it died down. Then he took a visit to the Steelers. We talked about it, and it died down. Then he worked out with DK Metcalf, and we talked about it, and it died down. And again, it died down. So I don't really know what his point of getting this out there on Thursday was when there's, again, no updates. It is what it is. I don't get it, and we're still waiting over here. The meeting with the Jets, I found it interesting. It is what it is. I don't think Aaron Glenn or Darren Muji are going to have much to say about it. They've turned the page. They have Justin Fields as the quarterback. They're done with that era. It was 2 years with Joe Douglas, with Robert Saleh. It's over. They moved on. Aaron Rodgers didn't like it. It is what it is. That's what happened. They're moving forward. I think it's an interesting story. He wanted to get his side out of there, out in the public. Good for him. There's really nothing else over there. The Steelers part is by far the most interesting thing here because he said he's been in touch with Mike Tomlin, which obviously is very notable. He said he's been in touch with him many times, so they're in constant communication. Definitely sounds like he has respect for Arthur Smith, the offensive coordinator, for Omar Khan, the GM, obviously respect for Mike Tomlin. He seems to love DK Metcalf, who they just traded for, and they just paid him $30 million per year. They did not give him a deadline, which obviously is good news for him. He did say he's not holding them hostage, but if they want to move on, do so by all means. But right now, a personal matter is more important to me. The one thing that obviously makes this very interesting is obviously the draft is next week, under a week. The Steelers pick at number 21. They've met with a number of quarterbacks, including Shador Sanders and Jalen Milroe and some of the other guys in this draft. If he still does not give them an answer by Thursday night, if a quarterback is on the board, do they take a quarterback? Does that affect Rodgers' decision? There are so many questions that are unanswered, but also how does the rest of the league react to all of this when they know right now Rodgers is still undecided? Does that mean if you're the Browns and the Giants who are picking at 33 and 34, if you're the Saints who are picking, I believe, at number 40 in the second round, if those teams don't take a quarterback at 2, 3, and 9, and you want to take a quarterback by trading back in, is your goal now to jump in front of the Steelers at 21? Do you believe they're actually going to take a quarterback? Because right now, I think the league reaction is Rodgers would like to play. Steelers are probably the option, but he did say retirement is still an option out there. And if you're the Steelers and you watch that press conference, and let's be real, Rodgers is still talking about COVID. He's still bringing up all these different things. Like, do you want this the entire year as well? So there's so many different questions that came out of this interview with McAfee that I wonder how the rest of the league thinks of the Steelers at 21, especially if Shador is still there at 21. He might be off the board by then. This is a non-conversation, no point of having this. But if he is on the board, if you're the Giants, if you're the Browns, if you're the Saints in the second round, you did not take the quarterback high, are you now trying to trade in front of the Steelers to get that quarterback? So that element of this is by far the most interesting part out of all of it.
Do you think there may not be a good answer to this. Do you think that teams are kind of internally laughing at the Steelers for getting themselves already involved with a guy that has been notorious for this kind of stuff of kind of, it's not toying, but it does feel a little bit like toying, with this team of will he, won't he? Like, it feels like a weird relationship where it's like, are they together now? Are they not together? Like, do you think other teams are looking at this like Mike Tomlin, Omar Khan, like, what are they doing? Why are they having to fool with this?
A few things. I think if you're a Packers fan, I think if you read some comments from Jets fans, like they loved getting Rodgers when he got there. It didn't work out. They're happy this is finally over and they don't have to go through all the shenanigans. You look at Packers fans, like the Packers clearly got rid of him at the exact right time. So I think their fans are like, we're happy that he gave us his 17, 18 years, but it was time. The Steelers thing is interesting because they've had this, I guess, this thing now the last couple of years where they've dug themselves in the corner. And they did this last year, if you remember, Ben, because this was the one thing we talked about nonstop when we started the show. Remember the Brandon Ayuk stuff?
Oh, yeah.
They needed a number 2 receiver. They needed somebody else to cross with Pickens. That was Ayuk or nobody, and they didn't get anybody. And throughout the year, they had nobody across of George Pickens. And it was a big problem throughout the course of the year. Now here we are. They don't have another quarterback on this roster. Like, are you really going to go into 2025 where it's from the veteran standpoint, it's Aaron Rodgers or bust? I guess Kirk Cousins still out there, but I don't even like the Shador element. Like, is Shador really going to be the answer or Jackson Dart going to be the answer when this is a veteran roster where it's TJ Watt, it's Cameron Hayward, it's Alex Highsmith, these are DK Metcalf. You just paid him all that money. It's George Pickens, who we've seen him get frustrated with young quarterbacks in the past. Like, I don't think this is somebody who just drop in a rookie quarterback and expect to win. Like, you need a veteran with this roster. So I just question the fact that they keep on digging themselves in this situation where it's like, this is all we got. If we don't get it, we're kind of stuck. And they did it last year with Ayuk, and they're kind of doing it again over here with Rodgers, because if Aaron decides not to come, I guess there is that Kirk Cousins element that is out there. But besides for that, this is kind of what they're stuck with, and they can't really walk away from this shenanigans and all this nonsense that keeps on happening, because the NFL, if you have a quarterback, you want the guy who's just your quarterback and there's no distractions. Rodgers brings stuff with him. He just does, and that's the reality of it. So this is the new world the Steelers are living with, and they've had to deal with it now for over a month. Owners' meetings. Mike Tomlin had to talk about it, question after question after question after question. Rodgers going on McAfee on Thursday, I thought there was no reason to do it. Like, nobody was talking about you, man. Like, there was no reports out there. There was nobody saying anything about you. And frankly, Ben, I watched the whole thing. He came on as if he wanted to squash reports, as if there were some negative things being talked about it. What he said is that I spoke to Kevin O'Connell. That was reported. That's true. I spoke to Brian Daboll. That was true. I spoke to some other teams. I think that was the Rams when they were doing the whole Stafford thing. There was nothing out there that was not even true about, like, everything that was reported about Rodgers ended up being true. So I don't really know where he's coming from, but this is the life you live if you're going after him, and that's the life right now that the Steelers are in.
This is insane to think about. Will he be the one that finally gets Mike Tomlin fired?
No. Mike Tomlin is there in Pittsburgh as long as he wants. I mean, it's just the reality. I know Pittsburgh Steelers fans hate it. I will tell you, though, if there's one person in that building who's pushing for Rodgers, it is Mike Tomlin. I mean, it's more than anybody else. But I think Mike Tomlin is there. I mean, we know the history of the Steelers. They've had 3 coaches since '69. Chuck Noll, Bill Cowher, Mike Tomlin. They just extended him on a 3-year deal. I just don't see it happening. I mean, I know it's a fun question for you, but I think Mike Tomlin is there. He's one of the best coaches in football, and Steelers fans a little bit too spoiled, in my opinion.
Do you think that the holdup is that Rodgers just wants to bring his boy from the Jets, Nathaniel Hackett, in? Nat Hackett's the reason that this isn't working out. He's got to come in there. He's got to be his guy.
Obviously, I don't know anything for a fact or anything. Hackett is out of the league right now, but they have an offensive coordinator. He mentioned Arthur Smith by name a number of times. He mentioned the quarterback's coach by name a couple of times. So if he's going to Pittsburgh, let's just make this very clear. This is Mike Tomlin's rule. This is not Aaron Rodgers gets what he wants the way he did with the Jets in the first year with bringing in Alan Lazard and Billy Turner and Randall Cobb in his second year of Devontae Adams and Hackett and all of that. This is Mike Tomlin's team. You're coming in to be the final piece for a team that keeps on making the playoffs but loses. That's what they want him here for. So I don't see that being the holdup. I think I'm going to take Rodgers by his word. He has a personal matter in his life. whoever it is, whatever it is. You have to respect that. It matters to him, and it's more important to football. And if he commits to playing for a team, he wants to be committed all the way. And right now, as of April 17th, he's not there. We'll see if that changes during draft week, when, by the way, the NFL draft is in Green Bay. So maybe he wants to upstage his former home. So you never know. Maybe that's what happens. So we will all see.
Well, while he's committed to getting all that figured out, we're committed to bringing you the best draft coverage and NFL news from around the league every single day, Monday through Friday. Make sure you're subscribed on YouTube, Apple, and Spotify. This is the last weekend we have before the madness of the NFL draft. I know I'm looking forward to getting some rest. Ari, I hope you are doing the same. And yeah, we'll talk to you guys all on Monday.
We will be back here next week. Officially, we'll be draft week, my favorite week of the year, my favorite 3 nights, obviously, with the NFL draft. Dreams are fulfilled. Every team feels like they're getting an immediate impact player. They have a chance now in 2025. It is great. It is fun. And we will have all the coverage here on NFL Spotlight. See you here on Monday morning.